Good evening. Welcome to the annual State of the Union address. As you can see behind me, we have our traditional State of the Union going on. My channel of choice is MSNBC. I'm not sure which channel you're on tonight if you're watching, but I'm really grateful that you are choosing to spend your evening live with Leah to discuss the state of our union. This was a fun, impromptu idea that I thought we could extend the invitation to people who might not be pleased with the state of our union currently, or might have some ideas on how we can improve going forward, and might have some grievances to air about how the past year has gone. We see that our president gets to give his version of how the past year has gone tonight during a State of the Union address. So this is your opportunity to give your thoughts and ideas on how the past year has gone. So please feel free to join in with comments, thoughts, ideas, questions, and we'll just hang out for about 20 minutes or so and discuss our thoughts on the State of the Union. So as we see more people coming in, I'll just give a brief intro for anyone online tonight that hasn't had a chance to follow the campaign so far. My name's Leah Phifer, and I am seeking the DFL endorsement to represent Minnesota's 8th Congressional District. Tonight, I am at my home in Isanti with the State of the Union on in the background, and we are here tonight talking about the state of our union, to talk about how we see this district, this state, this country moving forward. It might be a little different than what you're hearing on TV tonight, so please share your thoughts, ideas, grievances, comments from the past year. For a lot of people, this has been a tough year. Myself, this has been a challenge, but it's been also one of the most rewarding years of my life. I left my job at the FBI in late May of 2017. I submitted my resignation 3 days after Director Comey was fired by President Trump. I knew that I could no longer stay with the FBI if they were going to be used as a political arm of used to spy on journalists, our allies, being denigrated by the president. So I submitted my resignation, and I swore that I would try to take the voices of my fellow district residents in the 8th District to Congress to talk about what national security really means to me. I've been in national security for about 10 years between working at the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI. And I know that national security is not built on travel bans and border walls. National security is when every family has food and housing security, as well as equal access to healthcare and education. That's what the DFL stands for, and that's what I would like us to see happening on the federal level, talking about those kinds of national security and having the Democratic Party take back that from the Republicans. They do not own the national security conversation, just like they don't own the conversation on religion or on jobs or on any other areas that they claim. So we need to make sure we are putting forth strong DFL candidates, strong Democratic candidates who will stand up and say, this is not who we are. This is not what keeps our nation safe. So I'm here tonight to talk with you about how your year has been going. What have you seen happening in your communities that worries you, that gives you hope, that you would like to see replicated in other communities? So I put the question out to you. What have you seen happening in your neighborhoods, in your families, in your communities this past year that has worried you or given you hope? I'll start by saying that one of the greatest things that has given me hope is my team. My team is a wonderful, scrappy, brilliant, hardworking group of individuals. We have 3 paid staffers, my campaign manager, Sue Hakes, our wonderful communications director, Kathleen Murphy, and our amazing finance director, Renee. We also have a cadre of volunteers across the district, so many volunteers. We have people phone banking tonight in Virginia, Minnesota. We just wrapped up a phone bank in Grand Marais. We had a phone bank event going at UMD last night, another one going at the Feminist Action Collective members' house in Duluth. We have incredible volunteers across the board. My team that is carrying the Leah Phifer for Congress campaign forward gives me so much hope this year. So much hope in a year that is marred by some difficulties, to put it mildly. That is marred by the administration trying to roll back some of the hard-earned environmental protections we saw under the Obama administration, rolling back the EIS, the Environmental Impact Study, that was commissioned by the Forest Service under Obama for the Twin Metals project up near Ely, Minnesota, rolling back a climate change, looking at taking climate change off of the list of national security issues, looking at what our immigrant communities have suffered under this administration, living in constant fear of deportation with a Congress who is unwilling or unable to enact long-term solutions to our immigration system. I worked in immigration for 6 years, Immigration Customs Enforcement, the detention center in Minneapolis, where I translated Spanish. It was one of the most challenging and rewarding times of my life. It was very challenging to see politicians using people's lives and livelihoods as political bargaining chips. Looking at DACA, that was instituted in 2012 while I was working at ICE, and many people celebrated the executive order that President Obama signed that created DACA. But I knew that an executive order can be easily overturned. And it was under this president. And we're still seeing a Congress that is unable to come to the table and create a permanent solution for our dreamers. A Congress that is unable to create a permanent solution for all of the immigrants living here in the shadows. We have approximately 12 million undocumented individuals living here in the United States who desperately need a pathway to citizenship. One of the most rewarding parts of working with Immigration and Customs Enforcement was the ability to help people navigate a very confusing, very contentious system. We had a few successes with helping women, children, families who did not know that they were eligible for certain types of relief. And thanks to some very hardworking and compassionate individuals in the immigration system, we were able to get them out of deportation proceedings and get them on a road to legal status through introducing them to U visas, T visas. These are different visa categories for folks who have been victims of crime or of trafficking, different categories of visas that people didn't even know existed. And that was one of the more rewarding parts of my time with Immigration Customs Enforcement, was helping people get on a pathway to legal status, to citizenship, that may never have gotten that opportunity if it weren't for a few very hardworking, committed individuals in the immigration system. So those were a couple of challenges and rewards that I experienced in my career. I see a few people commenting. Sal says, young women stepping up and running for office gives me hope. I could not agree more, Sal. We are seeing across the board thousands of women, especially young women, stepping up to run for office. And they're running for all the right reasons. They're not running because they dreamt of becoming career politicians, that this was on their bucket list of things to do. They're stepping up because they see what's happening in our country right now as one of the biggest threats to our democracy, to our national security, to our families, to our communities. And these women are stepping up to say, enough is enough. They need our voices at the table. Women only comprise 20% of Congress. In order to exert a political influence on a group, you need to be 30% of that group. So women don't even comprise a large enough portion of Congress to exert political influence. Just think what we can do when we reach 30, 40, 50% representation, not just in the federal level, but on the state and local levels as well. So if there's anyone online tonight that is thinking about running for office in any capacity, please reach out to me. I would be happy to lend my experience talking about how I got this whole thing started, from riding 7,000 miles on my bike across the district to officially throwing my hat in the ring, the paperwork, the good, the bad, the ugly. I would be more than happy to walk you through every step I took to get here today so that you can rest assured, if I can do it, you can do it, and you should do it. We have a couple more comments. We have Nicole saying that the Women's March and seeing all the organizing that is happening locally has given me hope this year. Thank you, Nicole. It has given me hope as well. I would love to hear which march you were at, Nicole. I was at the Bemidji March this past year, and we had an amazing time in Bemidji. We were led in the march by Indigenous community members, women leading us in song, marching forward, talking about how important it is in the Indigenous community to walk from home to home, community to community, picking up people along the way, saying, "You belong with us. We will help you find your way no matter what ails you." And they've actually had, in some areas, really good success in walking from home to home where they know there are people who are addicted to drugs inside the home, and saying, "Come out, walk with us. No matter what ails you, no matter what challenges you're facing, we will walk beside you and find a solution together." And it was a very powerful moment for me at the Women's March. Barbara says, Barbara is a very good childhood friend of mine, "We need to show Trump we're not okay with demoralizing women." I could not agree more. We need to make sure we are not normalizing what is happening. We are not normalizing the men, especially our president, but the men across the board who have treated women as expendable, who have treated women as objects, who believe that women's only currency is in their appearance. And we need to make sure that every time that happens, whether it's coming from a politician, whether it's coming from someone you work with or someone you ride the bus with, that we are standing up, protecting women, believing women, and making sure we are not normalizing this any longer. And Nicole says she was at the Duluth March this year. Wonderful. I saw so many pictures from the Duluth March. I wish I could have been there. But like I said, I was out in Bemidji, but we had a lot of good people representing the Leah Phifer campaign at the march. I'm so glad that you were there. So what else would you like to share? We've got, a few minutes left here, and I would love to hear some of the things that worry you. We had a few people talking about what excites them, what is giving them hope about the future. But looking back on this past year, and I know a lot has happened, I know there's a lot on your minds, a lot of things that you're worried about in your communities, homes, families, and I know because I've traveled the district. Like I said, I've put on almost 14,000 miles since I jumped on my bike in June, traveled to all 18 counties multiple times, met with people from Renshaw to International Falls, Grand Marais, Bemidji, Brainerd, everywhere. And I've been hearing what's on your minds. And I want to continue hearing, whether it's on live videos like this, in person, over email, phone. If anyone wants to give me a call, my number is 763-645-0011. I'll have Jason type that number into the comment bar for you as well. I try to answer my cell every time I can, and if not, leave me a message, and I will do whatever I can to make sure your voice is propelled to the next level in our legislature. So we have a question. Rena says, "I'm worried about the survival of our democracy." I am too, Rena. I am worried particularly about what's happening in the past few days with the FBI. The FBI isn't perfect. If you've ever read some histories about a few of the leaderships that we've had in the past with the FBI, we know that no law enforcement agency, no agency in general is perfect. But in general, the Department of Justice and the FBI is that line between us, the American people, and authoritarianism. And that line is under siege right now. That line is under attack. It's under attack by people in very powerful positions who don't want the Department of Justice, who don't want the FBI to be that line of defense between us and the agenda they want to push forward. So I urge you to pay attention to what's going on right now, especially in terms of the Mueller investigation. If President Trump fires Robert Mueller, there will be marches across the country. Indivisible is already organizing just in case this happens. I urge you to join them and have your voice heard, because that will be a very, very stark line that is crossed if the special counsel for this investigation is fired. Barbara says, I agree we need to come up with a compromise for immigration law, but we also don't need to be paying for a wall. I absolutely agree. One of the things I mentioned earlier that compelled me to leave my career in national security was this idea, this prevailing idea, that national security is built on border walls and travel bans. And after 10 years of working in national security, I can tell you that is so far from the truth. And I could not stay in administration, could not stay in an agency working towards policies that are built on travel bans and border walls and laws that we know actually keep us less safe. So I completely agree, Barbara. We need to be looking towards a compromise on immigration. We need to demand that our legislators sit down at the table and focus on coming up with a solid immigration reform plan. There was one, it was the Gang of Eight bill in 2013 that failed. It made it through the House, it failed going into the Senate, and it never saw the light of day after that. And it was very unfortunate because it was a good bipartisan plan. It wasn't perfect, but it had a lot of good qualities that we need to see put into any immigration reform proposal going forward. This is not an impossible endeavor. The blueprint is there. We just need legislators who are willing to pick it up again and move forward. Kim says, Washington's lack of interest in gun control laws to curb gun violence and preventable accidents is troubling. The NRA is too powerful in politics. Kim has a very good point. I grew up hunting and fishing like most of us in northern Minnesota did. I have my 20 gauge that I love to go sporting clays out in the field and hang out with my friends. We call it golfing, but with our guns. And good people, conservationists, hunters who know they don't need an AK-47 to shoot a duck. They don't need automatic rifles to go hunting. So we need to make sure that we are enforcing common sense gun laws, enacting common sense gun laws that will help reduce the rate of gun violence we're seeing in this country. Right now, the gun violence epidemic in this country is a public health crisis, and we need to label it as such. The CDC used to have funding to study the gun violence epidemic in this country, but their funding was yanked. 2004, I believe, it was taken away. How can we approach a problem? How can we solve a problem if we don't even have the means to study it? You have to study the problem before you can come up with solutions that work. So one of the first things I want to see addressed when I get to Congress that I will be fighting for is to get the CDC back their funding to study gun violence in the United States so we can equip ourselves with the tools to reduce that. I see a few more people joined us. Thank you for coming on. I see some friends of mine, some former coworkers. Hi, Rich. We're just here talking, if you've just joined us, about the State of the Union, our version of the State of the Union. Maybe not the version on behind me here, but what we here in Minnesota, in the 8th District, believe to be the state of our union. The good, the bad, the ugly, what worries us, what we're excited about, what gives us hope, and that's what we're here talking about tonight. Emil says, what is your opinion on term limits for congressional members? One of the things I heard about the most this summer when I was traveling around was term limits. It is a bipartisan approach. Both Republicans, Democrats, Green Party members, Libertarians all agree that we need term limits. So when we have this broad consensus on the populist level, what's happening when we get our folks elected to Congress who aren't willing to vote for term limits? Well, the old saying goes, they don't want to vote themselves out of a job. But what I see is we absolutely need term limits to ensure we have a turnover of skills, knowledge, abilities, and talent in Congress, just like we would in any other sector. So I am a proponent of 12-year term limits. 2 years, 2 terms for the Senate, and 6 terms for the House. There is currently a resolution pending in both the House and the Senate that is asking for a 2-term Senate limit and a 3-term House limit. I believe that 3 terms in the House is too short to be effective, so I would like to see something that is along the lines of 6 terms in the House. And that is something that I would be fighting for when I get to Congress. I always joke that when this next generation starts to get into the legislature, we won't even have to worry about term limits, because I've never met a millennial that has kept a job for more than 12 years. So I don't think we're going to need to worry about term limits once we can start turning over Congress and making sure that next generation is able to get a seat at the table. Barbara says she's concerned about our allies and our allies currently questioning us. The U.S. used to be a country people wanted to be like, and what happened to that is not okay. And I couldn't agree more. I took an oath working for the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI to uphold the Constitution of the United States and to protect us against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But since I took that oath, what I have seen is political turmoil infiltrating public trust, destabilizing the U.S. on the global stage, taking us down a notch in the eyes of our allies, taking us down a notch in the eyes of our adversaries. This is absolutely unacceptable. We, one of the most wealthiest countries in the nation, need to be setting a gold standard for conduct, a gold standard for how we treat our people, how we treat other countries. And what we've been seeing coming out of this administration is far less than the respect that our people and those of other countries deserve. If there's any more questions, we still have a few more minutes here, and I'm happy to answer any questions or just talk about some of your concerns, what you've seen going on over the past year, what you'd like to see happening, what you'd like to see done better. I'm here to take your voice to Congress. We have caucuses on February 6th. 1 week from today. Don't forget to head out to your precinct caucuses. If you don't know where you caucus, on the website we have How to Caucus page that you can click on and find your county, and that will lead you to your neighborhood. You can also go to the DFL or the Minnesota Secretary of State Caucus Finder and type in your zip code, and that will help you also find your caucus location. Caucuses begin at 7 o'clock and doors open anywhere between 6 to 6:30, depending on your location. We encourage people to bring their neighbors, to bring their friends. Don't jump in a car and drive to caucus alone. Make sure you have every seat in your car full when you're going to caucus. It's a wonderful time to meet with your neighbors and have your voice heard. We have an incredible shot at securing the DFL endorsement on April 14th. But first, we need you to get out to caucuses on February 6th. That is the first and most important step to getting the DFL endorsement. So please head to your caucuses on February 6th. Stick around. People will be introducing resolutions, hopefully, talking with their neighbors, talking about what they'd like to see. Stick around, sign up to become a delegate. And then you'll go on to the next level, which is your operating unit convention. Those vary across the board. We're happy to tell you when yours is. If you're elected as a delegate, reach out to us. The information is also on the DFL website. And from there, your March operating unit convention, some areas is February. From there, you'll go on to the April 14th convention. And that is when we will be able to really say, this is what we stand for as DFLers. This is the candidate we believe best reflects our values, and we will be able to take back the party that we love so dearly and make sure the DFL truly represents the values of economic justice, environmental protections, and human rights. That is fundamentally what we stand for at our core, and I look forward to carrying those values forward into Congress with your help. So with that, I will wrap it up for tonight and let you get back to your evenings, either watching the State of the Union or not. Might be a good night to just unwind and read a book. I know we've had a lot thrown at us over the past year, but I am so honored that you all took a few minutes of your evening to meet with me tonight, share your ideas, thoughts, concerns, hear some of mine, and thank you for working so hard to make sure our State of the Union is stronger than ever next year. Thank you, and hope to talk to you again soon.